Well, after the former Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha trained his guns on the current Finance Minister and his own party person Arun Jaitley, alleging that Jaitley had quite made a hash of things when it came down to the Indian economy, he found alliance in another former Finance Minister, Chidambaram. Meanwhile, Arun Jaitley launched a scathing attack on his predecessor, saying that he did not have the luxury of hindsight.
Sector after sector of the economy is in distress. The economy has been on a downward spiral. That is a fact which nobody can deny.
I do not have the luxury as yet of being a former finance minister. Nor do I have the luxury of being a former finance minister who's turned a columnist. And therefore, I can conveniently forget a policy paralysis.
The big economy debate caught in a war of words between a former finance minister and the present finance minister.
My view is demonetization was not a good idea, one. Two, that the timing of that move was entirely wrong. When you had the economy on a declining course, then to further disrupt it by demonetization. And keeping in mind the fact that you had GST coming, it was an absolutely ill-advised step.
The biggest criticism that I faced on GST is, why did you do it so quickly? You should have delayed it a little more. So in contradistinction to a policy paralysis regime where decisions were not possible, passage of law was not possible, enforcing action itself was not possible, the entire tenor of the debate and the comment itself altered itself.
After former Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha launched the fiercest insider attack on the Modi government and its Big Bang economic reforms,
I worked with some of the greatest leaders of this country, and Vajpayee ji and Advani ji were among them. It is not the same party today. Nobody was afraid of going to Mr. Vajpayee or Mr. Advani and telling them what their problem was.
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley was ready, lambasting the BJP veteran.
India at 70, Modi at 3.5, and a job applicant at 80.
Even as BJP was caught in the race of who the better finance minister is, another former finance minister joined in, attempting to lend credence to Yashwant Sinha's claims.
Yashwant Sinha has come up with cogent arguments which I have been making, arguments which my party has been making for the last 18 months. There is no attempt to answer those issues. On the contrary, Mr. Jayant Sinha's article is simply stringing together various announcements. They are not Mr. Jayant Sinha's thoughts. That is from a PIB press release. Just read the article. It reads exactly like a PIB press release.
As the economic debate takes a political turn for the worse and India faces the worst economic slump in 3 years, those entrusted to look after the country's economy are once again locked in a war of words, instead of devising ways to bring India out of this slowdown. Is this the Modi Sarkar's attempt then to divert attention from the problem at heart to a political slugfest? Bureau Report, India Today.
Well, as this political slugfest continues to escalate, what is the collateral damage here? Is it the current economic crisis? There are certain questions that need to be asked. Is the government in denial over the current economic slowdown? And is the war of words somewhere down the line overshadowing the economic crisis which is looming large where the Indian economy is concerned? Yashwant Sinha targeting Arun Jaitley, timing suspect, primarily what we had seen over the past couple of months, a concerted sidelining of Yashwant Sinha as well. All right, to discuss both economic, political implications, we have GVL Narasimha Rao, national spokesperson of the BJP. We have Muhammad Khan, spokesperson of the Congress. He's in the studio with me. As well, we have Rajiv Dubey, managing editor, Business Today. Before we get into political repartee, Rajiv, I'd like to bring you in. And at the back of what Mr. Jaitley said yesterday, possibly trying to give a rebuttal to Yashwant Sinha, to the interview that you did of Mr. Chidambaram as well, and the kind of questions that are being asked of him as finance minister. Would you break it down for us? Did he justify the current position that we are in, where the Indian economy is concerned?
I think eventually he also said he defended GST, he defended DMO, but eventually he said that the economy is doing just fine, which is not something that most economists around agree with. And I think it's the government's job to defend and be in a defiance mode. But if you look at the real situation on the ground, our exports are down 10% this year. Our GDP growth was 5%, which was on an average about 7.5% in the last quarter. Our investments by both private sector and has come to a trickle. And if you look at job scenario, we are generating only 0.5 million jobs as against 3.5 million jobs just about 4 years ago. So, and agri is in a serious distress because, the farmers are not getting the prices that they deserve, genuinely deserve. So there is a problem in the economy, precisely why the government has decided, in fact the Prime Minister has decided to set up an economic advisory council of his own, 5 economists to advise him. So, I would say the government is doing a very good job of defending itself, but there is a genuine problem in the economy.
There is a genuine problem in the economy, and that's GVL. I'd like to bring you in. Defending is your job. All right, we don't have GVL yet. We're going to try and connect to him. But having said that, of course, like what you pointed out, Rajiv, yes, defending is their job, but being in denial is another thing altogether, and that's what's happening right now. Yeah. But, Mr. Khan, I'd like to bring you in as well. And, there was concerted attack which was built by Mr. Jaitley on the former finance minister, and he did have a point there as well, that he doesn't quite have the luxury of hindsight.
Right. Preeti, first of all, I watched Mr. Jaitley's speech yesterday, and I must say the words that came to my mind, the adjectives that came to my mind were defensive and petty. It doesn't behoove a sitting finance minister to talk down about his predecessors in this fashion. And that's the problem here. The BJP is so consumed by hubris and arrogance. Whenever there's a genuine problem and somebody raises it, their first response is to attack that person. First response is to try and tarnish that person's image. I think this is what the government is suffering from. Preeti, Bloomberg wrote about a 12-year job loss relying on RBI data. Credit Suisse published a report where they said India is going through a period of dense fog. The Larsen and Toubro chairman gave an interview where he said he doesn't see the scenario, the economic scenario, improving over the course of the next few years. These are independent people. They have no affiliation with any party. What will the government say about this? And the RBI, Preeti, the RBI has put out 3 reports to their credit, independent reports, about jobs, 12-year low, about the fact that consumer spending is at an all-time low. Incomes haven't increased over the last 3 years. And finally, petrol prices. Preeti, come on. Oil is at $50 a barrel. It is half the cost it was during the UPA time. And yet petrol and diesel are more expensive than they've ever been. That shows you the kind of bankruptcy there is when this government comes to making economic policies.
All right, Mr. Khan, stay with me. Let me bring in, we do have GVL Narasimha Rao right now. GVL, with what Rajiv Dubey, our managing editor, Business Today, because he was breaking down the speech of our finance minister. Defending, yes, it's your job. Defending, yes, you need to do that. But being in denial is a completely different thing, and that is what today you're being accused of.
Yeah, but it is our job to really, show what propaganda is and what facts are. And it's, I think when even journalists fall for propaganda and do not really look at things holistically, I think you have to call them narrow-minded.
All right, GVL, would you want to give out some figures?
3 years term, 3.5 years in totality, and not just 1 quarter. Can I? Yeah, I will give you.
Yes.
I think the same failed finance minister who was waxing eloquent with Rajiv Dubey a while ago, I think what kind of a legacy he had bequeathed to our government? Would Mr. Rajiv remember what was the growth figures and what were the fiscal deficits?
GVL, I have to say it's a little unfair to attack a journalist. GVL.
They were well above 7.5%, Mr. Roy.
Can I just?
Okay, let him finish. Rajiv, let him finish.
Please allow me to complete my statement.
Yes, GVL. Yes. Please complete your statement.
You can prove me wrong on numbers.
Yeah.
You can prove me wrong on numbers.
Just finish.
And what was the inflation? What was the CPI in 2014 when we inherited a government? over 9.5%. 9.5% fiscal inflation CPI, 4.8 or 4.9 fiscal deficit, 4.5%, 4.7% GDP growth. To you, if that looks like great performance,
but
and
there
you
were
are
no
trying
jobs.
to
One
take
second, Rajiv,
from him,
all right,
how
okay.
the government should run its financial affairs, thank God we don't depend. Can I complete?
Yes, complete. We're not coming in.
An
Complete.
entire UPA tenure was a jobless regime. This is what Rangarajan, who was principal economic advisor to Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, said. It was jobless growth during 10 years of UPA. Now put the facts in that perspective. You want to quote foreign agencies? What did Morgan Stanley say yesterday? For 3 years in power, we are the fastest growing economy in the world, large economy in the world. And even in this year, we are going to clock close to 7%. So you take one quarter out of context and you want to paint a gloomy scenario, then you are falling for propaganda.
All right. Okay.
And
Now, GVL, you had
really
your say.
Demolish this propaganda.
All right. GVL, you've had your say. Now, can I come in? It's rather unfair that you attach propaganda to journalism. Rajiv is the managing editor of Business Today. You can't say that. Now,
I have no interest in being on
he has no
either
interest.
side.
Yes.
Either side.
Yes.
I am only telling you facts, and the facts are telling us that we were generating something like 3.5 million jobs a year, which is down to 0.5 million jobs as of today, and it's a fact. It's
and GVL, whataboutery is not going to get us anything, right? We can go about in the past and talk about what about this government, what about this government.
We are no more the fastest growing economy in the world. Let's stop saying that.
All right. Okay. Now, you know what I'll do is, Rajiv, there are points which have been made by GVL, and to maybe contest the propaganda that you possibly would have fallen for, would you want to take him on in terms of...
Like I said, I have no interest. I mean, I would be happy to meet the finance minister and ask the same questions, because these are the questions that are right on top of every economist's mind.
Are there certain questions you want to pose?
Everybody wants to know,
what are the questions,
are we doing, for instance, let's have the, you know, how is the government planning to get back the economy back on the rails, right? That's the answer that everybody wants. Are we doing a fiscal stimulus? We don't have an answer yet. Are we planning to, increase job growth? We don't have an answer yet. Are we planning to increase the growth of the economy? We don't have an answer. Why are our exports falling when the world exports are rising? Everybody's exports in the world, whichever country, the global economy is growing at 3%. Our exports are down 10%.
All right. Okay. So, you know what we're going to do is we're going to go into a quick break, and GVL, I'm going to come right back to you, because at least with what experts say, and you have this platform to debunk that. Is the explanation given by the finance minister didn't quite fit in to suggest that the government is doing enough to battle the current economic crisis? You can come and debunk that if you feel otherwise.